In Buddhism, there's a lot of meditations like the metta or Maitri meditation, or in the Tibetan system, there's a practice called Tonglen where you really try to stay present with your own suffering and then breathe in the difficulty of that suffering and then breathe out to yourself some relief or some good wishes, and you do that with other people too, and you can do it with people you pass on the street. So there's a lot of meditation techniques, but I think the key is first self-compassion, which I think I wanted to talk about this in the book that I wrote, that I think a lot of times we are not compassionate because we feel a thought or an emotion comes up and we wish we weren't thinking or feeling that. Let's say, since I took a long plane flight to come here, that the people around you on the plane, this happens, were actually, it was an overnight plane and are very disruptive. Like, let's say people, it's 2 a.m. on an overnight plane and you're trying to sleep and the people around you on the plane are very noisy, right? So at first I think you have to, how would that make anyone feel? Right? I think there's this assumption that if you're like a meditator, you should just be able to be completely at peace with that situation. But obviously, if you're feeling irritated, it's very human and very natural to feel irritated. So I think the practice of compassion is first saying, it's okay that I feel irritated right now, right? That's very natural. So you first generate compassion towards yourself for feeling anger or irritation. And then I think it extends to others. Like maybe the thought comes up, oh, maybe they have a different understanding of time, or maybe they don't need to sleep as much as I do, or maybe I could just nicely ask, could you be quiet, or maybe I could make friends with them, But I think first you have to acknowledge and accept the feeling that's arising in your own mind, which is really what meditation is about for me, because if you can't be compassionate towards your own irritation, how are you going to be compassionate really to someone else? So I think compassion starts with really accepting and making what I talk about in the book, a welcoming home for whatever we're feeling in the present moment. As a meditation teacher, if you ask people very profound questions like, what do you think enlightenment is, or something, it usually creates very philosophical or esoteric or very heady conversations. So usually I just ask a series of questions about what their life is like, or their family, or what their work is like, just to get a sense of how their spiritual practice actually fits into their life. Because from the standpoint of the tradition that I teach in Shambhala, the point of the path is to live an awakened life in the world. So I'm always really interested in just get to know, the culture and family and details of a person. So I don't think it'd be one question. I think it's more just like sitting with somebody and getting to know them a little bit as best as one can. I mean, obviously, if there's 200 people there, you can't ask everybody 10 questions about their family and their life and their favorite flavor. But I think it's more important just to get to know people and let the path arise from that, because for me this path is it is profound, but it's also just very mundane. It's just how do we work mindfully and compassionately with normal life situations. So I think if I want to offer anything to help people, I just try to get to know what their life is like. Everybody comes to meditation to reduce stress or understand oneself better. So you want to be able to control your social. A lot of people come because they feel like they have anger problems maybe. So it'd be nice if we could control our outbursts, like, not honk the horn so much. That's a big problem in New York City. But to be able to control what happens, we never can control it. I mean, whether it's, I'm happy it's a sunny day here at the festival, but you can't control whether it's going to be sunny or rainy, And I think living our life trying to control things rather than show up and be present and influence them in the best way we can, which I think that's possible, to have an influence. It creates a lot of anxiety, And I also think, I study a lot just casually, a lot of the neuroscience that's coming out that's talking about the relationship between these meditation traditions and the effects on the nervous system and brain. And it's pretty clear that our nervous system is designed to look for threats or look for big problems to our survival. And so we also want to turn things that aren't really a threat to our survival into a threat. So I think a lot of the teachings in Buddhism about acceptance or allowing. It doesn't mean you don't act or influence your situation, but it means in the present moment you realize that your mind and your nervous system are often looking for threats and looking to control threats that even if they were there, we couldn't really control and usually are not there. You know, there's no saber-toothed tiger about to eat us, but our nervous system is constantly telling us, like, maybe a tiger is about to eat me, right? Because that's how it evolved. So I do think we have to give up the illusion of control. But you don't do that once, you do that again and again and again because it keeps coming up that you want to control. I think there are different practices or different reminders for just, and I think the breath is one because the breath returns us to this feeling of getting caught wanting for something to happen, and then if you just remember to breathe, there's this feeling of let's see what happens, you know, which is a very different way to live life if you keep returning to that, let's see what happens. And it's, I think this is a conversation I have a lot. People think that if they give up control, that either they're going to become very lazy or that other people are going to take advantage of them. So giving up control doesn't mean you don't act. You actually act just as much because that's what life is. It's a series of actions. But giving up control, I think, means that you wait for the appropriate moment to act because you're not needing to act all the time. So you sort of save your energy a little. Those moments when I can actually relax with who I am and with what's going on, then I say, oh, I should do this now. And it's actions become more simple. You know, they don't become so anxiety-filled, if that makes sense.